You're listening to the Visibly Fit podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. Are you looking for a little pep in your step? With some solid, noticeable energy? Well, maybe for that pep that you're looking for, you just need to add a little peptide to your already healthy routine. You see where I did that? See how I worked that? Pep with peptide. That's right. On today's Visibly Fit show, we have a peptide expert. I think he's known as a Peptide King. We're going to have to ask his official title here as far as peptides are concerned, but it's going to be awesome. He's here with us today, and we're going to unpack just how those short chain aminos, those peptides, are a must to building healthy proteins, those long chain aminos in the body, and how the health of both offer the pep that you're probably seeking. Today with us, we have Regan Archibald, LAC, FMP, and he is one of the leading peptide specialists in the nation and serves as a regenerative therapy and peptide consultant at the award-winning clinic he founded in 2004, East West Health. And you can find that at acueastwest.com. And now integrated pain specialist. Regan is the founder of Go Wellness and is the creator of the Peptide Mastery Course. He is a member of the International Peptide Society, and he is the author of 8 books, including Never Stop Healing and Your Health Transformation. As a peptide expert, licensed acupuncturist, and functional medicine practitioner, Regan brings immense innovation and cutting-edge options for those that are looking to recover from pain, balance their hormones, or increase performance or optimize their health and their energy. His clinic, East West Health, is the first medically managed peptide program that includes the use of acupuncture and herbs, regenerative health, and functional medicine. Now, Regan believes that health isn't a destination and disease does not take vacations. That's why he created one of the most innovative wellness curriculums in America called the Health Accelerator Course. He and his partners, Cade Archibald and Scott Frogley, DC, combine their talents to create a best-in-industry patient experience. With over 1,000 active members participating in weekly hacks, which stands for Health Accelerator Challenges, and thousands more tuning into his podcast called Never Stop Healing, which I just recently was a guest on. So thrilled about that. Regan is truly not to miss on your health adventures. If he's not teaching or writing or working with patients in his office or virtually, you will find Regan in the Wasatch Mountains with his wife, Jessica, and his kids, Zoe, Dominic, and Jonah. He loves to ski and snowboard, mountain bike, take ice baths. That's right. You heard that. Take ice baths, biohack. And he is very passionate about bringing art back into the practice of medicine. So welcome to Visibly Fit, Regan. We're so glad to have you today. Love it. Hey there. Uh-oh, wait, can't hear you. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Okay.
There you are.
I'm here. Thanks for the amazing introduction. And I like you want a little bit of energy pep. And today I think we can give everyone just a little pep, a little boost. Yeah,
good. Okay. So first of all, are you the Peptide King? What is it? Peptide Master? What are you?
I'm kind of known as like the peptide expert. So I've got a domain, thepeptideexpert.com.
All right.
And so it's that's it.
Okay, well, I've just named you the Peptide King.
that's even bolder and grander.
I'm the king of peptides. Well, Regan, I've known you for a little while, my husband and I, and we have just grown to just adore you. And I love that you are so passionate about people's health and that you just really care about people. And I think that that's why you and I have connected so well, because we both have a passion for getting people living their best life, really. And one of the things that I hear so often is, I'm just, depleted, I'm tired, I'm looking for that energy. And so much of it can be corrected. And I know you're a big fan of, a healthy lifestyle and going along with what I teach with Visibly Fit, but there might need to be a little extra boost in there. But can we talk a little bit about energy? And let's talk to us like we're 4-year-olds. Like, seriously, like, where does energy come from? Okay. Like, how do we get energy? Like, let's talk layman terms here. And because I think about some people and they're like, gosh, I've slept 9 hours and I'm still exhausted. And then there's some people they're like, yep, slept 6 hours and I'm ready to go. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, I think that's a great starting place, because I look at the amount of energy you have as equivalent to the amount of health that you've got. And this energy, I guess if we define it, energy is the ability to be able to perform the actions you want to perform at the times that you want to perform them. And so, that means if you go without sleep for a night, maybe you've got like a kid who's sick. Like I've had one of my teenage boys has been sick over Thanksgiving.
Oh, no.
And, so my wife and I are not getting the sleep that we'd love to get, because we're checking on him and he hasn't been comfortable the last couple of nights. He's doing great today, but it's like, can you still have the energy and the capacity to do what you need to do? Or is your day just shot because of that? And so I think from a health perspective, it reminds me of one of my patients who I've worked with for a few years now, and she had 14 kids.
What? And, wait, what? 14? I'm exhausted just hearing that.
14, Wendie, can you imagine?
No, I can't.
And so, of course, like one of her big concerns is like, I just don't have the energy to make it through the day. And I've got all these kids. I think she's got, like, when you put her entire family together, it's over 150 people. And so they have to rent out a church house to, for Thanksgiving and for the holidays. And it's so cool. But, of course, at the end of the day, she's like, hey, I really want to enjoy my family. I worked really hard. And she'd wake up at 4 a.m. to go shopping before the kids would wake up. Her husband's a very successful dentist. And so he's working, providing for the family that way. And they made it work. But the biggest thing that I noticed is when she came in, she says, my energy's dragging. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And she was on like a 3-year low where anything she tried would not help. And this is where, stimulants actually made things worse. If she tried any caffeine, it would actually bomb her out even more so. And so there comes a time where you can't willpower your way through the day. And I think that's when our health is at the highest state of crisis. And so if we talk about it, if we're all 4-year-olds, it's like, what do you feel like when you need a nap? and
I would just like to sometimes get that mat out and roll up on the fetal position and take that nap on the middle of the floor sometimes.
Yeah. And actually there's, you actually need energy to sleep. And that was one of her big things, is she couldn't get a good night's sleep. And so I think if we look at energy as just that, the units to do the things we need to do throughout the day, and that might be take the afternoon nap. But at the core of our body, if you look at the mitochondria, mitochondria are these little nanomotors, and our bodies actually emit light. And so I think, with if we just think of us as all beings of light, you've seen people, and you're one of those, Wendie, but you've seen them where they just glow. They have this radiance about them, and you're like, what is that makes that person like beam? And I think from just a pure physiological perspective, it's these little nanomotors in every cell called your mitochondria, and your cardiac cells have tens of thousands of them. Your brain cells have tens of thousands. Other cells might have just a few hundred, but every cell in your body has this engine that's a self-perpetuating energy generator. And so you could literally generate your own energy if you have these mitochondria nanomotors just spinning at the right frequency. So was that 4th grade level, or is that, I think it's pretty close.
That might have been 5th grade, but yeah, I love it. I was even saying 4 years old, but we'll go with 4th grade.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
No, I think it's great because I've talked about the cell and the mitochondria, and so talking a little bit about that, my audience is familiar. But I think when you talk about frequency, this is something that we talked about on your podcast as well when you interviewed me about the frequency of how we think and our emotions and our feelings, and all of that can drive our energy as well. Because if you're in a low state, low vibrational energy frequency, your cells respond in such a manner, and you're kind of like that Eeyore, kind of low, you know, you're hunched over, you're exhausted. But I mean, there's so much more to it, as you know, with just kind of stacking healthy protocols as far as our routine is concerned. So let's talk a little bit about that, because and then we're going to get to the peptide part, but because you are a big fan of stacking healthy habits, and I am as well. And let's just kind of talk about some important ones. Obviously, you know, with water and sleep and all the things, but let's talk about it from your mouth as opposed to mine, because they've heard me way too much.
I doubt that, but well, I look at you know, it's sometimes if you've read the book The Slight Edge, it's a really great read, because it talks about things that seem hard in the beginning are actually easy in the long run. And this is when it comes to cultivating habits, and the easy habits become really hard in the long run. So think how easy it is to get fast food and to not think about what you're putting into your body, or to be
Pleasure
sedentary.
trap.
It's a pleasure trap, right? It's like, okay, well, I could turn on Netflix, or I could go work out. And, you know, this is what happened to me last night. I drove home. I was in southern Utah mountain biking and visiting my family over the weekend. And as we drove home, I was like, oh man, it's about 4 o'clock. I'm kind of tired. I just felt like I was too sleepy to like read. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll turn on Netflix. And then right when I go, I was like, maybe I could just do some squats. And so I just went down to the squat rack, and I felt so much more energized, and the night was great. It was super productive.
Yes.
But I think it was like, it's that thing that I thought, oh, the easy way out would be to watch Netflix. But I can tell you, I would have been more tired an hour later. And then dinner wouldn't be nearly as energizing with my family. I would have shown up as a lesser version of myself, but then I was able to go squat, and we had some good conversations. So I think it's just like making that fundamental shift first and foremost, like, okay, is this going to make my life easier into the future or harder into the future? And so if you have this mindset, you know, I always tell people, I want to make your next decade your best decade. And they kind of laugh at that. And I'm like, I actually take that very seriously, but I just do that by showing you these little hacks, these little shortcuts that lead to a much better improvement in the future, in your future self. So time is the one resource we all have the same, you know, like you have 24 hours, I have 24 hours. It's like, how do you want that time to be lived? And do you want it to be lived with robust health, or do you want to be fighting against your sickness the whole time? And so this is where you can generate momentum as you stack on different hacks. And you mentioned I'm into cold plunges, which I love. I did a year-long challenge. Every birthday I do like a full 365-day challenge. I said, I'm going to do this one thing every day for a year and see what changes happen in my life. And so I did that a couple of years back, and that ice bath challenge was incredibly invigorating. You get to the point where you're just like addicted to the dopamine and the endorphins, and your body just feels so good when you get it nice and cold. So yeah, that's one of the, you know, I think that's one of the core habits, is expose yourself to extreme temperatures every day if you can, whether that's extreme heat or extreme cold, because we're all living in a 70-degree environment, and our bodies are, you know, we're resilient creatures. And if you don't apply any kind of stress, then when real stress comes, you're not going to be ready for it.
That was so good. That's so true. And I have done a cold plunge, and I actually enjoyed it. And I think I could have stayed in a lot longer. But I've noticed that cold plunges versus cold showers are completely different. I'd rather do the plunge than the shower. I'm only up to 40 seconds in the shower. And I'm thinking that's pretty good, but obviously it's the breathing that gets you through it. So I'm determined to get to that 2 minutes, but I think you're right. We have to challenge ourselves and stop living so comfortable. And I wanted just to share something quick. And I know this is your interview, but you mentioned Netflix. And so Todd and I were just talking the other day, and I'm like, you know, I wonder how many years we are wasting on just video anything. I don't care if it's social media or the TV or whatever. So the average person is around actually 4 hours a day watching some sort of box. And listen to this. This is crazy. So you figure that out, it's almost 12 years of your life gone. So if you're 70 years old, you've really only lived 58 years. I mean, if you think about that, it makes me want to vomit. So anyway, there's a little nugget of information for you. So I'm glad you turned off those Netflix. But let's talk peptides, because a lot of people, that's kind of a new word for them, at least my audience. And let's talk a little bit about, how they work and how they're, people may think peptide supplements, so let's just kind of define peptides and how peptides can work in different modalities for what you need.
Beautiful. I think we should start off by taking collagen peptides does not mean you're taking peptides. So we're talking about medicinal peptides. I have patients tell me all the time, I have been taking peptides for years. Oh, great. Which ones? Collagen peptides. And it's like, those are structures of amino acids, but it's not a complete protein chain, because you're missing tryptophan, which is one of the 9 essential amino acids. And that's why it's called the collagen peptide instead of a collagen protein. So just to clarify that, what we're talking about are these sequences of amino acids that are folded in a specific way. There's a number of peptides, and then there's the folding of the protein that elicits a response in your body. So peptides can be thought of as enzymes. They can be thought of as hormones, because they change the signaling between the cells. So if you think about your cell phone, you have multiple contacts on your phone, and that's how our cells communicate. It's not just through hormones, but it's actually through these novel peptide structures. And so when we talk about peptides, like, we can get into some of the mitochondrial peptides and peptides to give people a little pep, a little boost. And by the way, I do have a TikTok page called the Peptide Pep Talk.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, but I just remembered that.
Speaking of wasting years on social media, but I think we should all go check that one out.
Yeah, I'm not a consumer. I'm a producer, which my marketing team's always like, don't forget about this channel. It's really big. I'm like, is it? That's great. But I don't know. But
I love it.
But anyway, there's peptides that you can use for enhancing growth hormone, like naturally. There's peptides you can do to balance your testosterone, your progesterone, so you're not using exogenous hormones, which can, I think they're really helpful, but they can come at a price. And so it's something that you're going to have to pay in the long run. Remember, I want your next 10 years to be your best 10 years. So I'm like, well, what's the safest way? And I think peptides are by far the safest way that I found. I mean, safer than a lot of the supplements and herbs that we use. So peptides, if you just think about it from a very general sense, it's like updating your software on your computer. I don't know if you've ever had, on my Mac, they put in a whole new operational system, and if you don't upgrade it, it starts slowing down and things start, there's
kind of
glitches.
bogging down. Yeah.
It's the same thing in our body as we age. By the age of 50, we're about 50% reduced in our growth hormone production, or for men, it's testosterone, or women, our progesterone starts to decrease. So peptides are just a way of upgrading your software so that your cells, your hardware, can actually communicate better and work better. Because most of you have great hardware. It's just you need a software update, and that's where peptides come in.
That is a great explanation. And Todd and I kind of am usually I'm kind of doing it for the team kind of a thing. So this is new for me, this peptide thing. And so Todd and I are working with you, and I'll go ahead and make that a blanket statement. But we did our blood work with you, and I just want to brag for 5 seconds, because you told me, what did you tell me about my blood work?
Wendie had, it was almost the very best, the very healthiest lab work ever. So if you want someone who walks the talk, it's Wendie, and I have proof, I have evidence. So yeah, well done.
Thank you. I was so excited. I felt like I needed some sort of a certificate to put on my wall. Best blood work ever.
Yes, it was phenomenal. The only person that's been better is Jenny, our health coach, and she's 29. So
wow.
At your age of, whatever, 29.
29.
Yeah, it's like you're right there. So
awesome. So that's a testament, by the way, to eating well and moving your body as well. But we all want to upgrade and just to see where we're at and how can we level up. And so, peptides are one of those ways that we can level up. And so regarding the PEP in our step, so to speak, what are a couple peptides that, and maybe you don't want to share that here, maybe you want to have a consultation with somebody, because it's not just a peptide and you're fine. It's a stacking situation, and it's different for every individual. But what's like a peptide that you recommend for a little pep?
Yeah, like my favorite is a peptide called MOT-C, and it's this really powerful peptide. And remember, peptides exist naturally in your body, and so it's phenotypically, peptides will express different genetic pathways. And so this MOT-C pathway, it activates the same pathway that like NAD works through for activation of sirtuins and cleaning up your DNA. But MOT-C works directly on the skeletal muscles. And so in some of the studies, they've taken these old mice and they've watched them on the treadmill, and they see how quickly they fatigue. And then they put them up against these 3-month-old mice. And then they take the old mice and they give them
Olympian mice.
What's that?
Olympian mice.
Olympian mice. And the MOT-C actually took these old mice and did MOT-C for 7 days, injections, and these old mice performed the same as the young mice. So
wow.
So they realized that in the skeletal muscles we have these things called heat shock proteins, and MOT-C is also activated when you do saunas or spas. So when you do that, like extreme heat, you're activating these peptide pathways that lead to greater longevity. Even the Japanese population, they've studied their MOT-C expression, and they found that it's more phenotypically expressed in the longer living Japanese population up near Okinawa than it is anywhere else. And so so I think MOT-C is a great one. I actually took it this morning, gave it to my wife, and right before my workout, and you notice it's a noticeable improvement when it comes to your workout. You can go a couple more reps pretty easily, and then you recover faster after your workouts as well.
Yeah, that's super cool. I do want to make note that this is not something that you should just dabble with. You need an expert to take you through a peptide tour, so to speak, in my opinion.
And we can talk about that, because 4 out of 5 peptides right now are purchased on the black market. That means you can go online and you can research and you can say, okay, I'm going to purchase a peptide, but it's kind of like, it's like purchasing a prescription medication from an unknown source. And they come with this label that says for research use only used for animals, not for human consumption. And so, there's a reason those labels are on there, is because they aren't as pure as what you can get at a compounding pharmacy. And really the cost is not that much different. So it's not worth putting your body at risk. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. I mean, Todd and I were just in Mexico not too long ago, and there's like a pharmacy on like every 3 doors down. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no, no, just say no. Because you don't know what you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they may have, ivermectin or different things, but you still just don't know what you're getting. So I'm glad that you've done the research and you've got the quality source. So if anyone is interested, to go to acueastwest.com to learn more. Let's talk a little bit about, like leaky gut and candida yeast. I think this is something that a lot of my clients tend to deal with, because their intestinal barrier has been impaired, right? So they're not getting the nutrients that they need, and also they're leaking out toxins into their bloodstream. And so peptides can help with that as well, but so can a shift in diet and all kinds of things. But do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Totally. So there's 3 peptides that we use primarily to correct the gut. And this is, we're like you, Wendie. It's like, well, make sure you're not taking ibuprofen, mitigate your stress. So there's peptides we'll use upstream before we fix leaky gut, like epitalin or Selenk. But then, and making sure you're not eating inflammatory foods and, you know, all those things, get rid of sugar, alcohol. But then when you really want to fix it, there's a peptide called KPV, and this is a tripeptide. That means it's three amino acids, and it's folded in a way that allows your body to heal leaky gut. They've actually done studies with mice, and they induced colitis in one group of in two groups of mice. One group got KPV in their water, the other group didn't. And the group of mice that got KPV, within 2 weeks, their colitis was completely in remission. Wow. Total recovery. The group that didn't, the colitis persisted. And so, and we've seen this in a clinical study where we've seen KPV with our Crohn's patients. We've seen it with patients who do have colitis or diverticulitis. KPV is a very powerful peptide, and it's considered a bioregulator. And so the bioregulator peptides are really powerful because they just go through and they turn on different genetic pathways. It's kind of like going into the house and turning on all the lights that are off, and then the lights you don't want on, you start turning those off. And that's how KPV works. And it's one of the most powerful peptides to heal the leaky gut. And there's a lot of evidence behind that. The other one is BPC 157, and this is popular. You know this one.
Well, yes, because my husband used it in his shoulder and loved it because he had like kind of an injury, and then, you know, just a few days later he was fine.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's like
it's like the bionic man or something.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can use it for wounds in the body, and it helps heal wounds like in just an unrealistic amount of time. It's just like, it's very remarkable how fast it can heal things. But it does the same for the gut. And so it's one of the peptides you can use as an injection. You can use it orally. But it's another peptide that's been shown to help with intestinal permeability, helps. So essentially it's helping heal that intestinal barrier.
It's got dual purposes, really.
Yeah. So if you look at at a gut test, and yours was pristine once again on the inflammatory markers. Remember the eosinophil X and then the SIGA. So all those, the calprotectin, all those three markers. When those are inflamed, we give someone BPC 157, we test again, and those inflammatory markers are gone. So it's really powerful there, but it also can heal the connective tissue. And then the third one is LL37. And so this is where it's like, well, if someone has Candida, if they've got SIBO, if they've got Klebsiella, maybe even C. diff, usually it's a fecal matter transplant, but then you still need LL37. But LL37 is a cathelicidin, and it's a peptide that will probably disrupt the antibiotic era, because we have overprescribed antibiotics, and so now there's all these treatment resistant bugs out there that are very deadly, and LL37, because it's very selective, it can isolate and identify different fungi cultures, different bacteria, viruses. We use it for Lyme patients because it can bury into the biofilms, but it's naturally secreted by humans, and humans are the only mammal that secrete LL37. So it's this really powerful piece of immune intelligence. And even in one study, they find that astronauts, they test their LL37 levels when they go and they're doing space assimilations. And they find that if LL37 gets too low, then these astronauts' immune system's too compromised, and so they need to get them boosted again. And so it's a very powerful peptide that we see phenomenal impacts with intestinal issues or overgrowth of fungi or bacteria.
Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. And I think about the use of antibiotics, like you said, and how it has just really destroyed so many people's gut microbiome. I mean, some of those healthy bacteria will never come back again. Like some people don't realize that. Like they're just, forget it. It's not going to happen. So, so I think that's interesting that this peptide can help in that area too. And this is so good. What is your kind of your daily routine?
Well,
personally?
I'm boring. I go to bed at the same time and I
Me
wake up at the
too.
same time. Even if it's a weekend, I'm just like, I'd rather get my sleep.
Yeah.
And so I go to bed at 9:30 before bed, about an hour before, I use Normatec, these compression boots.
Oh,
It's
sure.
like, it's a great little biohacking tool to get recovery for the day. But I'll typically use those at night, read a book, hang out with my wife and kids, and then 9:30 in bed, usually by 9:15, and then wake up at between 5:15. And then I do my peptides. I like to do them in the morning. A lot of your peptides you want to do in a fasted state, and so I'll do my peptides. And then I go work out every morning, 30 to 45 minutes. And then there's different intensities because I'm a big believer in, getting at least 360 minutes of exercise in a week. And
Yes.
so that's my first exercise of the day. That was one of my other year-long challenges is doing 2 workouts a day. And I actually found that it's really energizing. So I do one in the morning and then typically one in the evening. That's like either walking the dogs, so it'd be kind of a low level, or what I love doing most is mountain biking or going for a trail run. So
That's awesome.
um,
I need to teach you my Visibly Fit exercises. I think you'd actually really enjoy them.
I was trying to do those as I was driving yesterday. I was like
Were you?
flexing, and I was
Yeah.
like
You
flexing my
can squeeze
lats.
against the steering wheel even, like for
Totally. Yeah. Oh,
isometric.
yeah. My
Yeah, yeah.
chest was, I was like, oh, this is good. I was like kind of watching the clock, trying to get 60 seconds of a squeeze. And I don't know if I
Yeah.
was doing it right,
No,
but
that's
yeah,
good.
you're great on the podcast. We've already got good comments. People are like, oh, I've been doing that. I didn't know it was a thing, so
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. I love that. I love that.
yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed this interview so much, and I know I could talk about you and with you for a long time here, because you have so much to share and you're just an encyclopedia about health and with peptides. But what is maybe the biggest concern or the biggest reason that people come to you?
I think people come to me when they're just frustrated because they've tried all kinds of things. They've taken handfuls of supplements for years. They've tried to eat their way out of a problem, exercise their way out of a problem, and they're just fed up with it and they want a new approach. And so I would say that's a big reason why people come. It's a lot of times it's the entrepreneurs who we work with who are very overwhelmed, they're burned out, they put on about 40 or 50 pounds of weight. They'll tell me 20 pounds and I'll run their DEXA scan. I'll say, I think it's a little more. I won't tell them that. But yeah, a lot of people who are just at that stage of life, usually it's in their 50s and they're like, I have to make a big choice. I'm going to either have 20 or 30 really good years or 10 to 20 really rough years. And so those are the people that we work with, and I love it.
Yeah, it's good because they are intentionally seeking out what to do to make their next decade or their next 2 decades even better than before. So I love that. So if you're watching, here is Never Stop Healing, the book. Check it out. Go get it. Regan's mug is on the front, handsome fella here, and it is chocked full of great information. And I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, yep, that's what I teach. That's so good. I love that. I love that. But I love all the peptide information with it as well. And I mean, it's extraordinarily done. So thank you. I do have 2 quick questions for you.
Sure.
One is for those that don't know you, and I don't know you as well as Todd and I would like to know you, but on a personal level, is there something that maybe people don't know about you that you have, like a hidden talent, or I don't know, maybe you play the piccolo or something that you want to share with us?
I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question. I think probably the thing that people don't know about me is I study a lot of philosophy, and I love I love different types of thinkers out there. So that might be something that might come as a surprise to people. And then as far as like any hidden talents, I don't know. I wish I could say I have a lot. I've got this crazy hidden talent, but I'm not musically inclined. I'm like a hillbilly from Idaho, so there's no.
From
So no, I
Idaho,
guess
huh?
the one thing is I ride dirt bikes. I have a dirt bike that I feel alive when I ride that thing. And so,
That's super
so right
cool.
out of my house, I can go and take it into the mountains, and I can be lost for hours. So that would be one thing.
I love that. That's so cool. And we talked a little bit about faith on your podcast, and
Mhm.
my audience is more of a Christian audience, and I know you've got your background in the Mormon Church, and you did missionary kind of stuff for a
Yeah.
couple of years, and then you kind of you were kind of just seeking, right, and studied Buddhism and different things, and so. What would you say to maybe someone today? I know this is kind of interesting because my audience is Christian, and I'm not going to use this as a witnessing moment, but I want to, as a former, missionary and witness in the
Yeah,
Mormon
sure.
Church. What would you say to someone that maybe has had a tough time in their faith? Because I would imagine that's why you aren't in the faith that you originated in,
Hmm.
and and you might possibly still be seeking, right, of
Sure.
where to find your home. What would you say to that person to keep searching and seeking, or what would you say?
Well, I think the loneliness and the despair, like sometimes you look back and you're like, how much wasted time did I have believing in this thing that's not even true? And it's not something that was nurturing my spirit. I actually had this conversation over the weekend with a couple of my family members who are starting to feel the same. And I can just tell you that the faster you can let go and just trust that God is there, or whatever you want to call your higher power, there's a net. But the problem is when we hang on too tight to these belief systems and this ideology that has kept us comfortable and safe over the years. Once you break through that, that's where the magic really happens. That's where you can become alive and far more spiritually connected. So the faster you can let go, the easier it will be. There's
Hey,
my advice.
I'm gonna go with you on that, because I think that religion itself can be the thing that we trip up on.
Big
And
time.
for me and for those listening, I mean, it's the Jesus, not the religion. And so that's where we fall into that space, and knowing that, okay, I just want to be a Jesus follower and not be a religious Pharisee,
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And I think all sects, SECTS,
Mhm.
all sects of the religious, however you want to call it, they all have their brokenness, like, because we're all broken people. And so
Yeah.
once we realize that and have compassion for one another, I think it changes the way we see one another and can help one another along their journey. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I know that that's kind of a touchy subject for some people, right? But it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's like let's
It's
just talk about it.
totally normal, and it's okay, because you can feel ostracized, but actually those people will still be there, the ones you want in your life, no matter what
Yeah.
changes you make. And so and I think the just to tie in our energy, the
Yeah.
light, Jesus
Yeah.
said, hey, I am the light of the world and you are the light of the world. So it's like, it's a reminder, like, hey, who I am and you are too. Like,
That's right.
quit downplaying your significance as a human being. And so I think just to tie it all in, all these, like, the thinking is like, hey, use Jesus as your archetype. That can be someone who you can really structure phenomenal health and thinking around, and
Absolutely.
really that can boost your mitochondria
There
better
you
than
go.
almost anything.
That'll increase your energy
Yeah.
100%. That's right. We are created in his image. So very cool. All right. What's one word to sum up who is Regan?
Oh, I've been asked
Don't you
this
love this?
before. I'm maybe a innovator. Like, I just love bringing new ideas and new concepts together in creative ways that add value to people's life.
I love it. Regan, you are so awesome. Thank you for taking the time. I know my audience is going to be blessed by you. And if you're looking more for a 7-week course with Visibly Fit. Go to getvisiblyfit.com and you'll find out more there. But thank you for tuning in to this episode of Visibly Fit. We'll catch you next week. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are. I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a Visibly Fit day.